Hi, I'm Captain Jimmy Bits of Fishing Florida Flats, and today's tips and tricks. One of the questions we keep being asked is, I'm going out fishing, I'm not catching anything, so what do you think I'm doing wrong? So what we decided to do on this tips and tricks is explain the 10 most common mistakes people make, okay? One of the mistakes that people do is when they're planning a fishing trip and they're going out, they're not coming up with a game plan before they go on the boat. So it's really important that you make a plan before you go on the boat. A good way of doing that is just go to your computer, bring up Google Maps or Bing Earth, and mark all the spots that you want to go to. So going to Google Maps, you can see all the points, you can see all the jetties, you could see the spoil islands, and then you could actually come up with a plan saying, okay, I'm going to go here, 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 and here. And this way you have a game plan, so you know what you're doing before you get on the boat. So once you get on the boat, you're not automatically saying, okay, what are we doing now? Where are we going? So that's number one. Number two is, if you're going out fishing for sea trout, you're going to use one size hook. Use the proper hooks, proper line, proper gear. I see so many people going out there and they're saying, okay, we're going to go shark fishing for black tips, and they're using these little hooks and that they would go for a sea trout or something. So before you even go fishing, always plan on saying, okay, what kind of species we're going to fish for. We're going to fish for snooks. We're going to fish for reds. We're going to fish for mangrove snappers, sharks, cobia. So you bring the right gear. Like if you're going for sea trout, but then you decide to go catch some shallow water grouper, you're not going to be able to use the sea trout setup that you're doing, because you'll never get them off the bottom if you catch a good sized one. Also, make sure you have the right hooks, and steel leaders. Say you're out there and you're fishing for whatever, grouper, and then you're getting cut off, okay? You might need some steel line. So say mackerel show up, you must have other gear on the boat, either some steel line or even a long shank hook. So really important on tip number two, bring some gear, because you really have to be ready for any kind of fish you're going to be running into. So number three, okay, bring more than one kind of bait. I see people out there, yeah, greenbacks are great. You cut them up and you can do it. But if greenbacks aren't around, sometimes we go out fishing and we have greenbacks on the boat, but they're not biting. Then we toss out a live shrimp and they're nailing the live shrimp. Or sometimes they're not eating shrimp or cut bait, but artificials are working. So tip number three, bring more than one kind of bait. So just because you're fishing a particular spot and you can see the fish, doesn't mean they're going to eat what you have. So bring the right kind of bait, bring different kinds of bait, and switch it up a little bit if you're seeing the fish but they're not biting. Number four, one of the other common mistakes I see people is that they go out to a spot, they could see on their down view, they could see fish, and they're like, all right, there's fish here, and nothing's happening. Bring some chum. It's really not expensive. Or make chum. Take some dead fish you have, cut them up, chum up the water. The more you chum up the water, the more it'll bring in different kind of fish. Especially if you're going for cobia or something, chum up the water. Chop them up, buy a chum block. It's really not that expensive. And just chum up the water, because it'll be a really big help. Tip number five, okay? When you do hook onto something, remember when you're fishing the flats, you are not bass fishing, okay? So set the hook, don't rush. Everybody out there, what I see is they're rushing. So when you feel a nibble, just let it go. Don't jerk it out of its mouth. Keep the rod tip up. So you want to keep the rod tip up. You don't want to point it down. Always keep the rod tip up towards the sky. Make sure your drag is set. Not too tight, not too loose. So always check your drag, and let them eat the bait, and then set the hook, and don't let any slack go onto it, because as soon as you point it down and you let some slack, chances are that you're going to lose them right then and there. Number 6, watch your feet. What do I mean by watch your feet? When you're fishing and you're stomping all over the boat, or yelling at your buddy, hey, bring me more bait, or just closing the hood, the cooler really hard and jumping up and down, moving your feet, jumping from one side of the deck to the other side of the deck. Noise scares fish. Keep the noise down. Don't talk if you have to, okay? Unless you have to. Just keep it quiet. Don't play music. I see people out there fishing and they're playing music at the same time. They're stomping their feet, they're talking, they're yelling, saying, oh look, I'm seeing fish, and quiet. The more you stomp your feet, when you stomp on there, what's going to happen is the fish are going to hear it, and you're going to spook the fish. Watch what you do with your feet. Watch what you do with the hatches. Just don't make any noise, okay? Because they will get spooked. So that's really, really important. Tip number 7. When you're fishing and you're moving around and you're cruising from one spot to another spot, you may see something. You may see a nice size cobia. Have your gear ready, okay? If your gear is ready, you could toss at it. Don't say, okay, hey, there's a cobia. Hand me a piece of bait, hand me an artificial, hand me something. Let me go get my rod. Have something ready that as soon as you see them, they only may be there for a few seconds, you have something that you could toss to them. So tip number 7, have gear ready in case you run into something interesting that you want to go for. Okay, because a few seconds could mean a lot, whether they're there or they're gone. Tip number 8, fish the correct time of day. What do I mean by that? You want to fish either incoming tide or outgoing tide. You want to fish early in the morning or later at night. You really don't want to fish the slack tide. So take a look at the tides, take a look at the weather, and pick the right time of day to go fishing. Don't say, okay, I want to fish 2 o'clock, because 2 o'clock might not be a good time. It might be a slack tide, so there's no really moving water. So really, start fishing when it's an incoming tide, switched over, or an outgoing tide, and you want some moving water. So that's really important. Okay. Tip number 9. Cast. When you're casting, don't cast into the wind. Position the boat so you're casting with the wind. All right, so it's really important. And going back to the other tip before, you really don't want to even use your trolling motor. Okay, you want to use the wind to help you move the boat. So set up the boat and set it up in a way that the wind is your friend, not your enemy. So let the wind push your boat and you towards the fish. So don't cast upwind to them. You always want to cast downwind. So set up your boat in a position that you don't have to use your trolling motor, because the trolling motor makes noise and that scares fish also. So I see that a lot too. Tip number 10. If you're gonna go and fish a rock pile, number 1, don't blow into that rock pile with your boat, going full blast, and just stop it on there. Stop way before you reach the rock pile and troll over to the rock pile. Second thing is, take your time and position your boat in the correct position with the current and the wind, so when you do fish the rock pile, that your boat is in the correct position to fish it. And when you do anchor slowly. Drop your anchor slowly to the bottom and make sure that you're hooked up really good. But it's so important. An anchoring position on a rock pile could determine if you're going to catch anything or a bunch of stuff. So really take your time when it comes to anchoring. Okay, so basically that's the 10 tips and tricks. Let me recap them real quick for you. I wrote them down. So, number 1, plan your trip. Use something like Google Maps. Number 2, use the correct hook and gear, like we talked about. You know, so if the water's really clear, go smaller on the line. Okay, bring more than one kind of bait. So that's really important. So if they're not biting on live bait, they might be biting on artificial bait. Okay, number 4, chum up the water. It always helps. Number 5, go slow when hooking a fish. Give them a chance to eat it. We're not bass fishing here. We want to set the hook and bring them. And then remember, when you do hook onto them, don't let any slack go. Keep your rod tip up, always. Number 6, watch your feet. Watch your noise. Don't jump around. Don't make tons of noise. Number 7, be ready for your gear. So if you see something, you can cast right at it. You don't have to set something up. Your gear is ready to go and your rod is ready to toss it at a moment's notice. Number 8, fish the correct time of day. Look at the tides, look at the wind. Pick the correct time. Number 9, make the wind your friend. Cast with the wind, not against it. It'll make a big difference on casting and also boat position. Number 10, anchor correctly. Anyways, that's today's tips and tricks. Please subscribe below and also hit the bell if you want to be notified every time that we have a new one of these reports. And thank you and have a great day, and just stay safe in the water. Until next time, speak to you soon.